started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Q&A of To Kill a Tiger. My name is Dominique O'Neill. I am a programmer at SF DocFest, and I would like to introduce Nisha Pahuja, the director of our film today.
Hi everyone. Hi, Dominique. Nice to be here. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to give you some space to share about this film, some ground rules, I guess.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we ask all audiences that are watching the film is that they don't take any images of the survivor. They don't take any photographs of the survivor, and they don't use her name in any social media posts or if they're talking about the film. So we're trying to keep her anonymous, outside of kind of a festival going audience, as per her request, actually. It's what she wants.
Thank you for sharing that. So can you talk a little bit about how you learned about this case?
Sure. Well, it's a really long story. So I actually was making a whole other film. I was actually making a film on masculinity in India, and I was following the work of Mahinderji, who's the activist, the sort of the main activist in the film. And what he has been doing for a number of years is he's been working with men and boys on masculinity, trying to redefine masculinity in India. And so he had started this program in the state of Jharkhand. And Ranjit, who's the father in the film, in To Kill a Tiger, was part of that program. He was part of that gender sensitization program. And I was filming the work of Mahinderji, and suddenly I heard that this had happened to Ranjit's child. And I began filming that story, thinking that it would be the spine of the film that I was making on masculinity. And it was actually only once we got into the editing room and we started to explore all of the material, and we were editing for over 2 years, that we finally realized, really, we have 2 separate films in this material. And the story of Ranjit and his child and the court case really needed to kind of live in its own universe. So we shifted gears and made To Kill a Tiger.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that background too on the NGO, because it's a really important part of this film is watching them being in the community as this is happening.
Yeah.
The film deals obviously with very sensitive subject matter that can be very triggering. And I'm wondering if you can talk about how you worked with Ranjit and Ranjit's daughter.
Yeah. No, it was a really, it was a really, it was a very difficult film to film. It was a very difficult film to make, specifically because of that, specifically because of this idea of filming a survivor, and that to a child. So initially, when we were filming, we actually started off not revealing her at all. Not actually showing her. And eventually that became very quickly, actually, that became impossible, just simply because of the nature of verite filmmaking. And so we decided that we were going to just film her as we would normally anybody, for a couple of reasons, partly because it was so difficult. And the other part was that we didn't want to film her in a way that hid her. So we didn't want to add to the shame, like that sense of kind of like what had happened to her was somehow her fault, and we decided that we would basically just kind of figure out, how to hide her in post-production. That was the initial kind of intent. We also really made sure that we were obviously just very sensitive, a small crew. We're a pretty intimate team, the 3 of us, myself, my DP, and Anita, the sound recorders, because we've worked together for many years. So we're really sensitive. We're very quiet. We made sure that she was comfortable. And I also made sure that I never spoke to her about what happened that night, never, and the other thing that I did is that I never actually did an interview with her. The interview that you see in the film was actually done after the case was over. It was at the end of the journey, just because I didn't want to add any kind of pressure or make her feel uncomfortable. So we were always just thoughtful and mindful and obviously very gentle with her, and her family. But it's interesting because I think for some people, when they watch some of the scenes, like the scene of her rehearsing, and all of her siblings are there, like including the little boy, right? And the other moment when the NGO worker comes in and she tells us what happened to her, and her sister is there watching. That was, we were just documenting, we were just actually very gently kind of filming things as they unfolded, and for the family, having the other kids around wasn't, it's just how things were for them, so we basically were filming their reality, their lived reality as it was unfolding.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we obviously see the emotional cost of this, but
Yeah.
you also go into the financial cost of
Mhm.
of the trial as well. Can you talk about adding that dimension to the film?
Yeah. Well, it was just the obstacles that were that were mounting, right? I mean, there were just so many things that he had to deal with, so much pressure, financial, obviously the ostracization, the death threats. There was just so much going on. So it was important. I think it was, it's clear to everyone watching it, this is not a wealthy family, and that they're poor. But it was important for us to talk about the poverty as he was experiencing it, especially after the scene where it feels like he might not be taking things seriously. So you
Mhm.
needed to understand that for him to go to court, like to actually get there, it's such an epic journey, right? It's hours on the bus, and it's expensive. It cost him money. I mean, we did we filmed obviously the days that we were filming with him, going to court, like when we wanted to film him in the car, or the scene with the ward member, obviously we would pick him up, right? But there were obviously many, many times where he just had to go by himself. So it was,
Right.
yeah, there was a lot that he had to take on, right? It was a big, big battle for him. Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about him sort of disconnecting. Can you talk about what you were thinking when you were starting to notice this
Yeah.
behavior?
Yeah. Yeah, there were a couple of things. I mean, I think there were a number of things. I think one, I think to a degree, almost all of us underestimated Ranjit. I think the only person who really truly understood him was Mahindraji, the activist. It was actually incredible. I mean, Mahindraji he's such a special human being. But I think all of us started to have our doubts. We started to kind of think, oh, okay, maybe he's gonna, maybe it's too much, maybe he's gonna blow it. So we were wondering. And then I think for me, one of the things that I felt very responsible for is the fact that I knew that we were, as a crew, and also the NGO, but all of us were having an impact on his life and on the life of the village and on the story. And I wanted to also make sure with him that he wasn't doing what he was doing for us, like he didn't want to disappoint us, right? Because eventually it was that we were all kind of in it together, right? Like there was myself, there was the NGO, and there was the family, and we were all kind of working together. We all had our roles to play, and each one of us was trying to be outside and objective, but we were having an impact. And I wanted to make sure that that he wasn't doing it for us. So I had a lot of those kinds of conversations with him, both on camera and off camera, you know, to wanted him to know that we would support whatever decision he made, that he shouldn't be doing this for, that we wouldn't be disappointed, you know, we wouldn't be disappointed in him.
Yeah. Some of that resistance from the villagers was targeted at you and your film crews. And can you talk about why you chose to proceed even against their concerns of you being there?
Well, that scene, I mean, after that scene, after the villagers, you know, we never went back to that village, right? So when the footage that is there, like anything that you see after that moment was shot before, you know, or it's a different location, right? So so we actually never went back to the village, and that wasn't actually the first time. You know, there was another time that was earlier where we were asked not to film anymore and to leave the village. This is really, really early in the story, early in our filming. And we did, you know, we packed up and we left. But Ranjit wanted us to keep filming. Like for him, it was important that we continue to kind of film, right? Because he knew that to a degree what the crew offered him, there were two things. One was a certain kind of safety. And the second is knowing that his case was going to be taken seriously at court. You know, like if you know the justice system in India and you understand the caste system in India, people like Ranjit, they're just not taken seriously. You know, like there are bribes, you can pay people off. I mean, there's so much corruption, but because we were there documenting, he definitely was taken seriously. The case was taken more seriously. So I think for us, we were, you know, we'd been part of this for so long that we kind of had to see it through. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, the film is more than just about justice. It's also this father-daughter relationship story. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because it is, I mean, it's such a hard film, right? It is a hard film to watch. It was a hard film to make, but really at the heart of it, it's the story of love, right? It really is this kind of incredible story about a father in India standing by his daughter, which is so rare. Like men like him are exceptional. He's really a rare person. And I think hopefully that's what you kind of, you know, walk away with, right? Like I'm sure there's a myriad of emotions that people feel when they watch the film. I'm so close to it now. I've seen it so many times, you know, but it really is that kind of, it is that love. And I remember, you know, the moment at the beginning, right? The interview at the beginning where he talks about when she was born, I was so happy and I always wanted a daughter. As soon as he said that, and this was the very first interview we ever did with him, but as soon as he said that moment, I knew that that's how we were going to start the story. It's like, this is a story of love, you know? It's about this extraordinary and exceptional man in terms of what he's going to, you know, in terms of what he's going to do. You know, the thing is for a man to say that he wants a daughter, for anyone in India to say that they want daughters is really rare, right? Because it's a culture that prefers sons, and so, you know, you knew as soon as he said that this is a different person. This is a special person.
Yeah. Ultimately, for you, what do you hope this film accomplishes?
You know, the biggest thing for me, and I can't wait for it to start, the biggest thing for me is that it gives the family a sense of peace, and you know, they're going to start coming to screenings, right? Like Ranjit is going to start coming to screenings and festivals. And I think I cannot wait for him to see the impact that his story is having on audiences. I can't wait for that, you know? I want them to feel empowered. I want them to feel heard and seen and validated, you know? I think for me, it's like if the film can be part of their healing and their growth, that would be amazing. You know, that's obviously like a really important thing for me. Then, of course, the other aspect, and I you know, I know that I became a documentary filmmaker because I'm a big sort of believer in social justice. And I have sort of run impact campaigns before. So without a doubt, that's something that I'm going to do with this film. I feel like it can actually really, I feel like it can really have an impact in India, you know, especially sort of vis-a-vis this idea of men and men standing up and becoming allies in the fight for women's rights. So, yeah.
Well, I really want to thank you for being here and sharing this film. And, you know, a lot of the victim blaming and rape culture in the film is mimicked here in the States too. And it's just a universal issue. And it's just so revolutionary to see Ranjit and Ranjit's daughter fight that and win. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Dominique. Yeah, appreciate it.